Thank you so much, Rajdeep, for taking out time to share your insights with our global audience. Very unique, kind of experience is what you have, and I seriously believe that this will add a lot of value to people who will want to understand LPG side of the business, especially from Indian context. I welcome you, Rajdeep. Thank you so much. And before we go ahead to the topics, would be great if you could introduce yourself, give a bit of context about your journey so far.
Right. So my full name is Rajdeep Guha. I'm basically looking after divisional unit in Indian Oil in West Bengal, which is comprised of 5 districts. And I'm looking after the LPG sales aspect of this unit. And my experience I've been throughout in Indian Oil, which is India's largest oil company, as you know. I started my journey in 2011, and till last year, my journey was mainly completely in the oil terminals side of the business in the marketing division. And since last year, I've switched. I've been to this LPG profile. So mainly, I've been looking at the evolution of we call it POL in our industry lingo. So the evolution of the POL part of the business downstream marketing side for the last decade or so, more than a decade. In the last 1 year, the sort of experience the kind of, I mean, the Malayan kind of extent of what our LPG side of the business does. So indeed, it's a pleasure to join you in this program today, and hope to learn from you as well, and hope to share my insights as well. Yes.
Thanks so much, Rajdeep. But before we start, what is this POL?
POL is basically the term that you use for liquid fuel kind of the business. So petroleum oil and lubricants. So we call it POL in our industry terms. So basically the divisions are POL, and LPG is a separate standalone division on its own. And then there's the aviation side of the business, which is also liquid fuel, but aviation is a different segment altogether in Indian Oil and obviously in the industry. Yes.
So, first of all, we'll start with an overview kind of a, topic is that we all know that LPG has kind of transformed from a household cooking fuel to a strategic pillar, especially in India's clean energy transition. So, how do you view the current state of India's LPG ecosystem in terms of demand growth, rural penetration, and industrial diversification? And what are the strategic shifts that you see in the next decade in terms of LPG distribution and consumption?
Since 2014, uh, uh, LPG penetration has grown massively in India, thanks in large part to the PMUI, the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana that was launched in 2014 and has been introduced in multiple iterations since then. The penetration, I think, at the current stage is close to 100%. I mean, almost every household has an LPG connection. So that is the extent of growth. And this was, I think, around in the 60s, 60% or 63% or something like that before this whole transformation started. And the shift is quite, I think it is strategic, and it is also quite relevant because LPG is the one of the more cleaner fuels that you can have because it is less polluting than solid fuels and liquid fuels. So gas-based fuels are much more cleaner. So, and obviously compared to what domestic households were using prior to this, the wood or whatever waste they were using for burning, the health effects are really, were devastating. So compared to that, LPG is quite much cleaner, and that's why the push to make sure LPG reaches every nook and corner of the country is really, a marvelous decision by the government. And even in the industrial side also, people are constantly switching from, the industries are constantly switching from traditional wood-based fuel or say liquid-based fuel, even highly polluting fuels like furnace oil and even liquid fuels like high-speed diesel. So they are switching from diesel and all those liquid-based fuel to LPG, right? So the growth aspect of the industry is obviously, it's a definite certainty. Consumption will grow. I think in the last year alone, LPG growth was in the range of, I think, last 12 months, it's around 6-7%, if I'm not wrong. And this trend will grow, and there will be more demand for it because as we move towards clean energy goals, cleaner energy demand will only increase, and the replacement of the existing high carbon or more polluting energy sources will become a more of a priority. It is already now, and it will become more of a priority.
Yes. And is there also cost economics involved in this, Rajdeep? Like,
Yeah, definitely. So LPG is a much cheaper, much more economical fuel compared to your traditional alternatives like diesel or furnace oil. In some instances, we've seen that it is even cheaper than electricity. So you can argue that electricity, I mean, obviously, how clean is electricity? That is another topic of discussion, because most of our electricity comes from coal.
yes.
So once again, electricity people I've seen, I mean, I've interacted with industry customers, etc., who seem to be of the opinion, yes, that electricity, since they're using electricity, it's cleaner. They are using the cleanest fuel available to them. However, you have to see, I mean, the kind of electricity, what kind of electricity that they're using. But yes, to answer your question, yes, LPG is definitely more economical compared to a whole host of traditional fuels.
Got it. And also, can you walk us through the core operational architecture of LPG distribution, right from refinery to bottling plant to last mile delivery?
Mhm. So it's a it's a mammoth. I mean, India is I think it's the second largest or largest. It is the largest, I think. I may be wrong, but either China is the largest or India is definitely in the top two of the LPG consuming nations in the world. And Indian, which is Indian Oil's brand, it is the second largest packed LPG brand in the world. So the kind of reach that we have is mammoth. So the process starts from either the refineries or our import terminals. So, I mean, LPG is a product that we have to import because of our demand. We are not self-sufficient in LPG. So, some of our refineries produce some of the demand, but the remainder of the demand is imported. So, either the journey starts either at the import terminal or at the refinery, and then whatever the import terminal or the refinery, they blend the product. I mean, usually it is imported not as LPG in its own on its own. It's imported as a butane and propane. So they blend it, and the blended LPG is then sent to various LPG bottling plants. So the bottling plants receive the product from the refineries or the terminals through either packed bullet trucks or pipelines or railways. Among these, pipelines is the cheapest and cleanest mode of delivery. And then once these bottling plants receive the LPG, then they store the LPG we call it Horton spheres. So there are spherical tanks. Basically, they have Horton spheres, and they have LPG bullets also, which are shaped like bullets, cylindrical shaped like bullets. So these specifically custom designed containers are used for storing LPG in these bottling plants. And from there, the LPG is bottled into the regular cylinders that we see in our households or in the commercial establishments. So these cylinders are then filled, and then these cylinders are dispatched once again via trucks, plain normal trucks that you see on the road. So these cylinders are dispatched via trucks to various LPG distributorships. So we have around, I think Indian Oil has around 11,000 LPG distributorships, which is around, I think, 50% of what we have in the country as a whole. So the various, I mean, every part of the country is occupied, I mean, is covered, is touched by LPG distributorship. There's no part that is not reachable by an LPG distributor. So these trucks reach these LPG distributorships, and then the distributors deliver the cylinders to the customers like you and me, and even to the commercial establishments like hotels, restaurants, whatever, and even the, say, industrial establishments also.
And if you could also, talk about a bit about the cost economics part here as well, right from the refinery to the end customer. What are the margins involved or what are the cost involved?
Obviously, I mean, margins is I mean, obviously you might think that LPG is a government subsidized product, and it's like something that is controlled by the government, but I mean, a huge competition in the non-domestic segment, the commercial segment, the industrial segment. So margins are like the most secret of secrets. You won't expect. I mean, even we don't know our margins properly. I mean, our pricing department usually doesn't disclose those to us. So I can't talk about margins. But yes, I mean, what are the kind of costs involved? Where are the costs? Basically, the cost comes in the import of the product from, say, we are importing from Saudi. We are incurring a cost in the shipping. That is the one element of the cost. Then the second element of cost is the where we are blending the product, say, in the refinery, or If we are producing in the refinery, then cost of production in the refineries. These are the costs. And then the transportation cost either through trucks or through pipelines to the respective bottling plants. That is also another cost. And then the bottling plant, whatever cost it incurs in bottling the LPG into those small cylinders. That is another cost. And then the next level of cost is the final level of transportation cost from the LPG bottling plants to the distributors. Finally, the distributors get some margin in their hand, from which they have to also ensure that the delivery men are paid their salaries, and whatever their costs are, they have all those costs, their costs, operating costs are managed, and then finally the distributors earn some margin on the cylinders that they are selling to the customers. This is the overall structure.
So all these distributors are directly connected with, say, Indian, or they are like third parties or
Right.
something.
So these are our channel partners.
Hmm.
So it's basically a distribution network. We enter into an agreement with a distributor that you will market our. I mean, obviously these distributors are company specific. So if I have a distributor X who is an Indian distributor, he cannot market these LPG cylinders of other companies. So we enter into an agreement with them, and I mean, yes, they are channel partners. And the thing I would like to add here is that these. I mean, one of the problems basically that the LPG industry faces, and which I think the current and ongoing policy decisions are also addressing, is the issue of differential, I mean, or the differential pricing basically. Because your domestic cylinders, the ones that you get in your, I'm assuming a regular, non-Ujjwala, non-PMUI household, the domestic cylinders that you're getting, it goes bear some form of subsidy by the government. You must have read reports about the recent 30,000 crore subsidy transfer by the government to the OMCs. So that is the subsidy for under recoveries in LPG. So basically, we are selling, because it is a product of national critical importance. So we are selling it at a lower price than we should. It is basically an under recovery. So the government is subsidizing or kind of compensating to some extent, not the entire extent, but to some extent, the losses, the under recovery that we incur in selling LPG to the domestic customers. So that's why domestic cylinder prices are, and you have seen that it is usually kept constant. It is, I mean, fixed. I mean, the last change I think was a couple of years back.
100 to 1,000 rupees.
Right. So
Yes.
that remains fixed. Now comes the commercial segment, where you see the restaurants, the hotels, the industrial units. So here the prices are not regulated by the, I mean, not fixed by the government. Obviously, the list price, the maximum price that the companies can charge for a particular market are fixed. But they are changed every month. You can see, if you follow the news postings every month. On the first of every month, you will find LPG prices hiked by so and so rupees or dropped by so and so rupees. Those usually mean the domestic, non-domestic, the commercial prices. Those prices change every month, and these are not subsidized by the government. The government bears
Yes.
no subsidy for these. So these are sold at a higher price, obviously, because we have to, recover all the costs that we are incurring and maintain profitability as well. So the point is that, there is this possibility, and
Yes.
it actually happens in many a times, that cylinders which are intended for use by domestic customers,
Yes.
then used by commercial customers. This is the main issue that the LPG business faces, right? So here comes the role of the regulation policy aspect of it. Recently, I mean, there are, multiple, revisions in the policy, and multiple corrective measures are being done. And obviously, from the company's ends also, we are constantly focusing on this area. Wherever we are getting any reports of such misuse, then we are taking proper action. We are taking up with the administration of the respective regions. So this is an ongoing process. But you see, if I can just, in plain terms, whenever you have something that is subsidized, there is
Yes.
bound to be leakage.
Yes.
And it is the responsibility of all the stakeholders to prevent that leakage, right? And many policy decisions are being taken, both at the central level, government level, and at the individual company levels also, to minimize this, because this is a loss to the exchange. One more thing, these commercial cylinders are taxed at 18% GST, and domestic cylinders are taxed at 5% GST. Obviously, because we want to make it affordable to the common public, so that this is a loss to the exchequer also. Suppose the restaurant is using domestic LPG instead of commercial LPG, then it is a loss to the exchequer because he's supposed to pay 18% GST, but he's paying 5% GST. So he's eating the system. Multiple aspects are involved in this, and right, so continuous action is being taken, and hopefully things will improve in the future. And they are improving. They are improving quite a lot. In fact, even in the last 1 year, I've seen a huge improvement. So it's a continuous process, and it will improve.
Rajdeep, there's a lot of black marketing also goes on in terms of I've seen people supplying cylinders without having connections at slightly higher rates, and they will also supply smaller cylinders.
Right, right. So mainly the smaller cylinders I want to talk about because you see, just today I was at a meeting with a district administration official. There are instances you can see the small cylinders, like usually typically 2 kg, 3 kg. These are you can distinguish them because they do not bear any of the standard oil company logos. We have three major oil companies: IOC, BPC, HPC, and you can, I mean, one or two major private companies are also there. But you will see that the logos are not any of those, right? So these cylinders, and another identifying feature of the cylinders is that you can see those are welded. The cylinders that we use, we market, so you won't see any welding seam because those are seamless. Those are prefabricated. I mean, they are seamless. So welding brings an additional weak point in terms of, if you can speak technically, it brings a weak point in the cylinder, and there is a chance of rupture. So these are unsafe, and these are not authorized by any government agency, right? The first thing. And second thing is that these the LPG that comes in these cylinders is not filled by any authorized oil company.
Yes.
Right. That is the maximum amount. That is, I mean, that is the most that I can say about this. So it is not filled by any oil company. So those are also not to be. First of all, there are safety hazard because obviously the welded cylinders, I mean, they can rupture at any time. And secondly, the source of LPG is suspect. Where they are getting the LPG from is a matter of inquiry.
And also, Rajdeep also wants to understand, like you explained us the entire supply chain of LPG. And so how are digital systems or IoT sensors or predictive supply planning improving efficiency?
Yeah, predictive supply is a major issue. I mean, we are constantly working on it. Demand planning, basically, because for my divisional office, I have around 40 lakh domestic customers, right? So, and they're spread across 5 districts, and there are so many factors which can impact what is the demand going to be for me in the next month, or in the next 2 or 3 in the next quarter. So, demand planning is a major aspect, and all the companies are, I think, working aggressively towards employing more advanced technology to make sure the demand planning is as accurate as possible. And even at our own level also, we are using technical analysis, like, the kind of analysis that you use for predicting stock prices. So those kind of analysis we are using to predict whatever will happen in the future, to predict demand. So demand planning is a very important thing. All the oil companies are very focused on it. In fact, our own, I mean, Indian Oil has its own proprietary projection software through which once that we give the demand, then the next point is how to meet the demand. Right. So say there's a distributor in this particular locality, and there are 3 potential supply sources for that distributor. So which will be the most economical supply source for that distributor? So everything is the entire thing is projected. I mean, it's basically a proprietary function, a proprietary software that we have, and all the input is fed into that from the different divisional officers, from different sales teams, and they provide an output which maps the cheapest way to provide the demanded product. Right. That is one aspect where you are using this technology. You mentioned the IoT. IoT is not yet. I mean, there were talks about installing, sensors on the cylinders, on the LPG cylinders, so that they can be tracked. That didn't. I think 1 or 2 pilots were carried out. I don't know whether in our company or in some other company, but it didn't prove to be too effective or too cost effective. So that has not yet happened, and we are using analytics elsewhere also. Say we are using analytics to find out potential areas where we can market particular products. So you may be aware of just a simple red 14.2 kg cylinders, but we have multiple SKUs. So for multiple purposes. So we are doing kind of analytics in that regard also. We are analyzing. I mean, at our HO level, this is being done. They are analyzing loads of data, the demographic. They are taking demographic data from government sources. They are taking how many migrants are in a particular locality, how many schools or colleges with hostels are there, how many kirana shops are there, or whatever. So they are analyzing every locality, and then they are projecting. You can target this area where you can have a potential for selling this product. So to that extent, we are using the current digital tools, and in many of the occasions, I mean, this is now taking the help of AI also. So that is another aspect. Obviously, everything is now moving towards AI. That's a different. It's a different question. How you are able to utilize AI. That is the first thing. But
Yes.
yes, obviously, we are also looking at using these new technologies, and it is evolving. It's an evolving landscape. The opportunities are endless. I mean, the sheer scale, if you just see, there are
Yes.
30 crore plus LPG connections in this country. So even in my I'm just 1/50th of Indian Oil in terms of my division office. I have 40 lakh customers.
Yes.
So the potential is huge for using the data and the technology to ensure ultimately the purpose is to make sure that the customers they are benefited by this. They receive the top quality, best quality service. That is the best, I think, the ultimate endeavor of all this.
And Rajdeep, also handling LPG demands, is requires a lot of safety discipline as well, right? From cylinder handling to transport to
Mm.
customer installation.
Correct.
And for that, you need to embed a safety culture in your
Mm.
workforce.
Mhm.
So, could you share a few examples where technology helped, inculcate such kind of safety culture?
In terms of safety, just want to add, I have one point to make. It may not be
Yeah.
a popular one, but I mean, India has some of the most stringent safety norms
Mm.
in the entire world in the our oil industry, petroleum industry. India, I mean, I can say this because with some confidence because when I was into this, I spent a tenure in Kandla,
Mm.
which has India's largest oil terminal, and we had an inspection from someone who came from Australia, and he was like surprised. Okay, so you have three interlocks for this. We have two interlocks for this. I've never seen anyone having more than two interlocks. So that kind of stuff. So in terms of policy, in terms of rules and regulations, India has some of the most stringent safety rules. But the problem is mindset. Most of the safety accidents, most of the safety related violations
Mm.
occur due to the human part of it. That is
Mm.
the unfortunate reality,
Mm.
and that's why how much ever you use technology, ultimately it boils down to that individual, right?
Yes.
So for the oil industry as a whole, I
Mm.
can say that there have been two major incidents which have shaped the approach to safety over
Mm.
the last 15 years. The first was the 2009 fire in the Jaipur terminal. There was an
Mm.
oil terminal in Jaipur, and
Mm.
there was a massive fire in that terminal. I think four or five tanks full of products were continuously burning for so many days, and I was not even in Indian Oil at that time.
Mm.
But yes, that was one major fire that we call it the Jaipur fire, and subsequently there was one fire incident in Hazira. Once again, an oil terminal, Hazira terminal, in
Mm.
2013.
Mm.
So I have some experience of, being close to that incident because I was in Maharashtra at that time, and one of my friends was posted in that terminal.
Mm.
Right. So these two events have shaped the industry approach. So I can say maybe in 2009, 10, before these incidents happened, everything was manual and everything was the safety aspect was probably overlooked. Let's be clear of it. But since these two incidents happened, all the oil industry, the people like us who are within the industry, their mindsets have changed significantly. Right. So and the regulations have also become more and more stringent. So with a combination of these two factors, the overall safety element of the oil industry has improved significantly. Now LPG as an added layer, because
Mm.
suppose in the oil part of it, you are only handling, say, we are handling in the refineries and then our terminals, and then it goes to the petrol pumps. Up to that, it is within our control to some extent because even petrol pumps are our channel partners, the dealers are our channel partners. So we can train them, they are also sensitized about it, and it is within our control. But
Mm.
what happens in LPG is that up to the distributors, it is within our control. Everyone is aware of what the product is capable of, what are the hazards, and everyone follows that. But In LPG, there is an added layer that it reaches the customers, your
mm,
households. Now,
mm,
who will inculcate that safety aspect in every Indian's mind frame? That
mm,
therein lies our LPG sales field force, our job to
mm,
inculcate that mindset, or to make the customers aware of what precautions they should take, and what are the standard operating procedures for handling LPG. So I that cannot be done by any technology. That has to be done through human contact. That is my point, right? So we are constantly engaging. All the oil companies are engaging in conducting, and this is also directed by the government. Also, government also, I mean, gives us some certain windows that you have to conduct special awareness campaigns. Last year also, we there was a massive campaign where I think it is very likely that even your household got inspected by the LPG delivery men, the mechanics, about regarding the safety. So last year there was a huge campaign, safety campaign related to LPG. This year also there was a campaign on a smaller scale. And apart from these periodic campaigns, we are conducting regular safety clinics. We call them LPG safety clinics at
mm,
various houses. And for once again, another point is that
mm,
most of the LPG customers, most of our consumer base is very rural, and the education level is much lower than what you can expect in an urban setting, right?
mm,
So, and the access to education is also kind of restricted in those areas. So we have to ensure that those people, those are the most vulnerable part of this whole equation, and we must reach out to them, and we must explain to them the benefit, the safety procedures to be followed for handling LPG. So we are conducting these safety clinics in the most rural of areas. I remember, I think August or September, I went to an island. It is on the river. Basically, it's the Ganges, but it divides as the Padma River in Bangladesh. So it's basically the island is the border of Bangladesh cuts through this island. It's a small island in the river. I went to that island to conduct such a safety clinic among the residents, and I was it was humbling experience, because those
mm,
people, I mean, it's a flood prone area at the border of Bangladesh. There is
mm,
hardly any facility there. There's no hospital, nothing, right? No immediate fire brigade access. Also, they have to cross the river to get the fire brigade done, right?
mm,
So even to get their groceries, they have to cross the river. Those kind of, we have to ensure, it is our responsibility as oil companies to
mm.
ensure that we are inculcating, or we are making these customers aware of the safety processes to handle LPG. Because,
Yes.
and once again, to answer your question, this cannot be done by any technology. At least to my knowledge, obviously things are evolving. Maybe some in future AI can predict, or AI can give lessons to these customers remotely. But as of now, yes, this has to be done.
And Rajdeep, you have been someone, who has seen very large terminal operations.
Like
So how do you see automation and digital instrumentation transforming LPG handling?
that.
Specifically, if you could focus on the tangible benefits of SCADA, ERP, and predictive maintenance systems.
So I would, in this case, I'll like to talk about the automation aspects in POL, that is the terminal liquid fuels, because that's something that I've seen more closely, having worked in POL and in the terminals. And in LPG, I've worked on the sales side of it. I've not directly handled the LPG operation aspect of it.
Mm,
So maybe I'll be more qualified to speak about the POL terminal automation part of it.
yes.
And in this, there has been once again a sea change. When I joined in 2011, everything was manual. So
Mm,
in what just a basic overview of an oil terminal. Once again, the overall process is same. If the product originates at the import terminals or at the refineries, and then it is transported through pipelines or tankers, mostly through pipelines or railway wagons to the terminals. And the terminals store the product in tanks, and from there the product is pumped through these tank trucks. So these tank trucks are then carrying the product to the petrol pumps. So these tank trucks are filled in something called that is a tank lorry filling gantry. It's a gantry. I mean, basically there are let's say corridors in which the trucks align themselves, and then there are pipes coming up from the bottom, from the top, or maybe from the bottom even, and then they are filling the trucks. So in each corridor is called a bay. So when I joined, for each truck, I have had to manually enter the preset quantity, because obviously these trucks the viewers may not be aware. These trucks have compartments within them. Whatever you see on the road, they have compartments, 3, 4, sometimes even 5 compartments. Each compartment has a specific capacity, say 3,000 liters, 4,000 liters, 5,000 liters, something like that. So you cannot fill more than that. There will be overflow. Plus, there you have to keep some space for vapor space, because you have to allow for expansion and etc. So for each truck, for each compartment, I had to manually enter the quantity, right?
mm,
For each day.
mm,
That was the situation in 2011 when I joined. And then I had to ask the pump operator to from where the pump product is coming from our tanks to the gantry. I had to ask the operator to operate the pumps, and maybe when there are no trucks, I'll have to ask the operator to switch off the pumps so that then there is no electricity wastage and the pumps are not running dry, etc. So this was the situation. In today's world, in today's current scenario, everything is manual. There is no human intervention in the TLS. A truck automatically the truck enters the loading area. It has a proximity card with it. Usually it has a proximity card or some other form of remote technology. RFID tags are also used, but usually
mm,
it's a proximity card. So it has a proximity card on it, and the driver shows the proximity card at the entrance gate, so the barrier gate automatically opens. Then the
mm,
truck reaches the designated loading spot. So before entering, it gets to know that you have to, there are say 7, 8 or 9, 10 bays on a gantry. So it knows that I have to report at bay number 5. So it reports
yes,
there, and then it has to show that card, its proximity card, to
mm,
the batch controller, basically where we entered. Previously we had to enter the quantities, preset quantities. So it has to show that card to the batch controller. Actually,
mm,
there's a sensor there separately next to the batch controller, so that to show, and everything is fed in that card. The truck number, whatever quantity it has to fill, how many compartments, everything. He just has to position the loading pipe. We call it the loading arm on the compartment, and everything will be done automatically. And once the trucks are loaded, pumps will get automatically switched off. Right. This is the level of automation that we have reached. And once again, this is not that. We have a general impression that okay, India may be having this, but say Netherlands or the US may be having it a much more advanced version of this. But this is the state of the art technology that we are having. Right.
mm,
So we have the most advanced forms of automation now, and this automation has also improved safety a lot. As I said, mentioned previously in the answer to one of the questions previously, the interlocks. All of
uh,
these are now automated. So previously there have been incidents where, say, a tank has a particular capacity of getting filled. Now, there are 3 levels of interlocks. So even if the first level fails, the second level will trigger. Then the third level will trigger. Then there's a fourth level where everything will shut down. You cannot do
mm,
anything else. So
mm,
there is no chance. Absolutely no chance of any safety incident happening inside an oil terminal at this in today's day and age. And obviously, the two turning points in this in bringing about this change in the last 15 years have been one, the Jaipur fire incident and the Hazira fire incident. Right. And similarly, the situation is similar in LPG also. Obviously, I cannot explain in as much of a detail because I have physically not operated there. But yes, it is a similar situation in LPG also.
And from your point of view, Rajdeep, what has been the operational and behavioral challenges, especially in last mile delivery? So, if you talk about India's major success stories, it is about
Mm.
expanding LPG access to rural and underprivileged communities.
Yes,
But
yes.
what are the challenges still in last
Um,
mile delivery?
Challenges remain basically in terms of infrastructure. Well, obviously, the number of distributors is adequate to cater to all corners of the country, but the infrastructure in terms of the road conditions, say the island that I talked about.
Yes.
How do LPG cylinders get delivered there? So they have to bring the LPG cylinders from there, go down to this boat point, and from there they have to take it on their boats, take the cylinders on their boats, and then deliver to the customers. So these are the main challenges basically. Now, I think it is fair to say that if you order an LPG cylinder today,
Mm.
there is a 90+% chance that you will get it delivered within the next day.
Yes.
That is the kind of efficiency that we have developed. So challenges in terms of infrastructure still remain. Delivery force is very resilient. Hail or high water,
Mm,
they
mm,
continue their jobs. right? I mean, you can see these are not usually, these do not get publicized in the general media, but whenever there are floods or everything, how does, I mean, what do you think? Do these people not get LPG cylinders? They still continue to get LPG cylinders. People work even through knee deep water, through waist deep, waist high water, wherever there
Mm,
are floods also. So our commitment to serving the nation, I
mm.
think, is unparalleled. And the kind of, I mean, the vast number of the customer base that we are catering to, it makes it a humbling experience basically. And it's basically a duty that we're serving to the nation. So challenges will be there, but we are prepared enough and we have a resilient field force that will meet those challenges. Yeah.
And Rajdeep, we have also seen that India is pushing towards a cleaner fuel diversification.
Mhm.
We have seen cases of ethanol blending and alternative fuels are also gaining traction. So, do you foresee bio LPG or synthetic LPG emerging as viable pathways in the near future?
No, not in the near future, but yeah, there are. I was reading about something called biomethane. So
Huh.
there is a projection that there will be some impact, some sort of addition in the future. Not maybe the near future, maybe the far future. But as of now, LPG. I mean, the ethanol part of it is quite obvious because it reduces our reliance on imported fuel, imported liquid fuel, etc. But the LPG is in itself, and also liquid fuels are less clean than gaseous fuels. So LPG being a cleaner fuel does not per se require another blending on it to make it even more clean.
Mm.
So as of now, there is no such, at least I don't, it's not in my knowledge, and I don't foresee in the near future as well. Yes, there is, government is making a concerted effort to introduce or increase the adoption of natural gas. So that is going on in many parts of this country, and that is a good thing. And natural gas is also a clean fuel, and it's also gaseous fuel. It has all the same benefits, most of the same benefits as LPG, and that is also going to displace some of the liquid fuels and make the overall, I mean, energy landscape cleaner. And the I was going through some projections recently. They are saying that natural gas demand is likely to grow to some extent by the up to the mid 2030s. After that, probably it will peak out, or probably there will be some decline. But yes, there will be growth, and LPG and both natural gas and LPG will be there. And I think till 2050, we have, I think, steady assured requirement of both these gaseous fuels.
And what will happen after that? Like, why will it go down?
So basically, the progress, if you see it, I was mentioning that I read somewhere. It's basically the BP Energy Outlook. It was published recently. I was going through it. So the focus is that overall you want to keep the global temperature growth to below 2 degrees, right?
Yes.
So that below 2 degree path requires you to increase adoption of renewables and all those things. So basically, to reduce fossils, obviously, whatever we say, natural gas and LPG, both are fossil fuels. So as renewables grow and become more viable economically, more commercially viable, they will displace some of the traditional fossil fuels.
Mm,
So that's why the part, I mean, it's not set in stone that
mm,
the demand will decline. But yes, there's a projection that there will be both policy aspects and as well as efficiency improvements and as well as commercial viability aspects, which will make the transition towards non-fossil fuels more of a more feasible. So that's why there will be some degrowth, but still it will continue to play a part. As far as the current projections go, it will continue to play a part. And in the, I mean, for our lifetimes, it will continue to play a part. Yes, obviously,
mm.
depending on how the policy environment changes, how the global breakthroughs that we can make, the extent will vary, but it will continue to play a part.
And also, see, ensuring LPG purity and the safety compliance across, thousands of touch points is a very difficult task. So, how do you enforce standardization, quality audits, and certification protocols across
Mm.
such a large operational footprint?
These are, I mean, the quality is one thing that has been, I mean, it is the cornerstone of the petroleum industry. Quality, right from when this industry, I mean, in the Indian context, it started mainly in the 1960s when many of the refineries came up and the earlier multinational oil companies were, nationalized. So from then only, focus on quality has been paramount. LPG per se, I mean, it's more of a problem in liquid fuels. LPG has it's a combination of propane and butane, just two
Yeah.
gases. And there is a very little chance of any, major impurity or, creeping into the system. In liquids, in what happens in fuel, in the liquid part is, say, ethanol is a hygroscopic product.
Mm.
So I remember when I was in Solapur in 2013 or 14, ethanol blending was started for the first time in Maharashtra in my location. At that time, we blended 5% in petrol. And recently, there are a lot of media reports about 20% blending and etc. Those are controversial aspects, but definitely
Mm.
it's something that is a very positive. It's taken in the right direction, taking the country in the right direction. So 5% blending also initially there was some resistance. Well, इसमें तो पानी आ जाए. Why? Because ethanol is a hygroscopic nature, so it attracts water.
Mm.
So if you keep ethanol open exposed to the atmosphere, it will attract moisture, and it is completely miscible with water. So you won't even able to distinguish. You won't be able to distinguish whether it is ethanol or water. If you are blending that with the petrol, then if that water gets inside the engines, then it
Got
will
it.
create problems, right? So
Yes, yes.
our main focus is ensuring that since then the design infrastructure, the design aspects of things which are handling ethanol has improved drastically, right? So the issue main comes when handling ethanol or something like that, where there is a possibility of ingress of water. Mostly that has been taken care of in terms of the technology aspect, design aspect, and
Mm.
also obviously, as I mentioned, the quality is paramount, and at every point there is very stringent check regarding quality, right from the generation point at the refinery doorstep to the in the intermediate, the terminals, and in the petrol pumps. Every level there is a check, and these are not just implemented by the individual companies. These are implemented on an industry level. So there is a team that goes around inspecting petrol pumps of all the three companies, oil companies, to ensure quality. We call it the quality reassurance cell. So
Mm.
does a marvelous job. It goes around, it has there's uh, a mini bus which it carries along with it, the team,
Mm.
and they have all the equipment. Even in the remotest part of the country, they can go to a petrol pump and they can test the product for purity. And at every petrol pump, there are provisions maintained to, you can ask for
Mm.
the dealer to, for the delivery attendant, pump attendant to show you the quality and quantity aspects. Right. So quality is paramount and it is central to the sustenance of the oil industry. So it's beyond question. At every point there are so many checks that quality failures are absolutely unthinkable.
Yes,
Still there are obviously anomalies happen, but
yes.
those are anomalies. You have to treat them as such.
And also, Rajdeep, LPG operations depend heavily on, highly skilled technicians and operators. How do companies get such kind of a workforce, and, you know, and how is the training happens? How do you maintain that pipeline that ki skilled technicians or operators आते रहे हमारे पास?
Workforce usually you see इधर का जो workforce है ना, they are associated with this industry. Most of them are associated with this industry or their particular operations for quite a long time. ऐसा नहीं कि
Mm.
भाई कोई भी आ जाके कल आके घुस जाए. It requires a lot of experience. It requires a lot of training. So even
Mm.
if we induct, say, someone new into the company or into the, say, as a channel partner or as a contract worker, we have to they ensure, if he's a contract worker, then the contractor has to ensure that he goes through some rigorous, we have specified programs that it's specified by the government at the government level. So we have to conduct those training programs for those
Mm.
workers to make them eligible first in the first place to be inducted, right? So that I mean the, basically
इसमें
this to answer this question is a rigorous training program, and there's a body called the Oil Industry Safety Directorate. It
Mm.
basically is in charge of looking after all the safety aspects of this industry as a whole, and it has formulated certain requirements of training also. So we have to ensure those training requirements are met very rigorously. Only then तभी जाके ये लोग any Tom Dick and Harry cannot come and say, well, I want to work. That cannot happen.
And is there some, kind of industry academia partnerships also being developed to train all these guys?
No, to train all these guys, yes, academia is not required. Academia to train, just if you are talking about the training aspect of it, there are agencies handling in specialized safety agencies, they are handling in those trainings. But yes, in terms of industry academia partnership, the oil industry is closely intertwined with forefront of research that is going on. We have Indian Oil has its own research and development division as a separate division, and it conducts state-of-the-art research and it develops quite a few innovative products it has developed to increase efficiency, to reduce reliance on imported products, to to support the Make in India movement, all those things. So yes, and in terms of training the modern workforce for the modern requirement, if I can get the drift of your question regarding the say employees like us, or
Yes.
see new officers who are
Yes.
joining. So for them, yes, there are continuous partnerships going on. For example, I myself went to a program in Calcutta, 1 year India program, which was sponsored by my company, and they are conducting similar partnerships with all, I mean, major educational institutions in the country. All the oil companies want to retrain their workforce and make them future ready. And at this day and age, for executives like us, the only thing that can help us navigate this the rapidly evolving infrastructure energy space is
Mm.
continuous upgradation. Unless you
Yes.
continue to evolve, unless you continue to learn every
Mm.
day, it's a mindset thing, obviously. But yes, the companies are facilitating that. Obviously, aware of the fact that they need to. In fact, if you go to our website, IOCL Net Zero document,
Mm.
there is a document called IOCL Net Zero. You can just search IOCL Net Zero. You see that one of the our IOCL's aim is to reach net zero by 2046, a year before our 100th Independence Day. So if you go through that document, you will see one of our main pathways to reaching net zero is training the workforce. So
Mm.
to make the workforce aware of the what is required to reach
Mm.
net zero, and to increase productivity, increase efficiency, all those things. So that is one of our. It is embedded in our vision.
So what
That's
is
to
net
the
zero?
extent to
Is
which.
it related to zero safety accidents, or it is
No, no.
related to
Net zero is
decarbonization?
net. Yes, decarbonization. So whatever carbon we are using, we are returning back to the environment. That is basically net zero.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Rajdeep. And also at the end of the podcast, we'd like to understand from you, how do you envision the next decade of India's LPG transformation?
LPG will continue to grow. There were reports that I mean, I've read one report published recently in the last few months, that there may be a say 20% reduction in the volumes overall, but that reduction will be mainly to say in the areas where urban areas where the penetration of city gas distribution, the natural gas network will penetrate. But in the rural areas, LPG is still the go-to, will still remain the go-to fuel. And even in many cases, for industrial customers also, LPG will be the more economical option compared to, say, liquid fuels or even natural gas,
Yes.
depending on the scenario. It will be I mean, the growth will mainly be through replacement of the liquid fuels. Yes, and
Yes.
the two main gaseous fuels, natural gas and LPG, will continue to coexist. And there will be, I mean, I don't see any slack in
Mm.
the growth story of LPG, especially given, I mean, recently also you must have read the government has announced the issue of 25 lakh new connections under the
Yes.
PM Ujjwala Yojana scheme. So we are ensuring, I mean, the overall the policy space is such that we are ensuring that LPG reaches every nook and cranny of the country, and the people who actually need LPG are using LPG, and those who are using a more polluting fuel that is more harmful for the environment and also for themselves, they are switched to a cleaner fuel like LPG. So these things, these factors will drive LPG's growth into the next decade. As of now, the official government figures say we are growing in the single digits, close to, I mean, the high single digits, I think. So close, I expect that trend will continue. LPG, in fact, last year among all the fuels, all the petrol, diesel, LPG was the fastest growing in the among all these fuels. So this growth will continue as of now.
Thank you so much, Rajdeep, for joining us on this session.
Thank
Very
you.
insightful one. And
Thank you.
thank you so much for explaining our audience in a very layman terms how does this entire industry operates. Extremely grateful that you took out time out of your busy schedule. Thank you so
My
much.
pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.